If you follow these Whiteboard Wednesdays, you know that I talk a lot about self. Whether it's self-awareness, self-confidence, self-mastery, self-efficacy, the list can go on and on. I believe if you have a full understanding of who you are, you can now align the activities that you do on a daily basis with what you were born and created to do. If you don't know a lot about yourself, well, we can see the identity crisis that we are currently in. If self is so important, like I believe it is, how then can we live a humble life? How then can we display humility if we're thinking about self-care? So how do you do it? How do you do it, Troy? If you're focusing on self, how are you to be humble? Don't you love a cup of coffee? It's an easy answer, actually. The answer is you live with a humble ego. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's Whiteboard Wednesday. Let's look at the definition of humble and ego before we get started. The definition of humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's importance. Ego, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. What about self-esteem? Because ego is negative, right? Ego is talked about as, oh, he's got a big ego. Look at his ego. It's really negatively portrayed. So let's look up what self-esteem means. The definition of self-esteem is confidence in one's own worth or abilities and self-respect. So what you're telling me, ego is neutral. Ego has nothing to do with how you treat others. And treating others is the crux of being humble. So let's look at traits for being humble and see if these two really do match. Aware? I would say a trait of being humble is being aware of your surrounding. Grateful, understanding what you don't control and showing appreciation for it. Yes, that's humility. That's being humble. Empathy. That's a trait. Showing empathy to others, not necessarily sympathy. Listen. Someone that is humble is listening. They're not only listening, but they're actively listening because they're aware of what's being said, which allows them to learn. Always learning. When you're humble, you have a mindset of, I'm perfect and I need to improve. I'm perfect and I need to improve. Woo-hoo. Kindness, displaying kindness. And finally, the ability to forgive. Those are the traits of humility. A lot of times, ego is misused. The word ego in the negative sense is misused. When in reality, what they're really trying to say is the person's a megalomania. Meg. You know Meg 2 is coming out in the theaters soon? People can be Megs as well. Megalomania, let's look at the traits of megalomania. Megalomania. Now, for those of you that are thinking that, Troy, you're saying it wrong, you might be 100% correct. So we're going to call them Megs. Not high ego. They have a big ego, but man, that person's a Meg. What does that person mean when they say that other person's a Meg? Well, let's look at the trait. Presumptiveness. I don't know if I spelled that right. They are manipulative. Megs are never wrong. They are narcissistic. They are prideful, extremely vain, and always blame others. They're not taking responsibility. So, as you look at these, presumptuous, manipulative, never wrong, narcissistic, prideful, vain, blame others, and everything that is never their fault, not my fault. And you look at humility, aware, grateful, empathy, listen, learn, kindness, forgive. This is who you don't want to be. There's a lot of people in this world that fall under this. They're Megs. It's not ego, though. So invest in yourself. Understand who you are. Grow that ego. And once you understand who you are and the importance you bring, then pay it forward to others so they know that even though you know your importance, you're putting their importance as greater than yours. There's a phrase that I coined growing up that I still use today. There is no one greater than me, and I am greater than no one. And that's how you live your life with a humble ego. My name is Troy Ritchie, and if you don't know me, you will.